I had to think about this a lot. As I was writing my notes, a lot of the things about why I hate the series and about what it's about and the world all came rather easily to me. But thinking about why I liked the series, what changed for me, I came to some really interesting realizations. One of the things I like is the female characters are fully formed individuals. Claudine and Pam and Tara, they all are their own people. You don't see a lot of strong, independent female characters of any kind in really anything that has action. And the Sookie Stackhouse novels have action. There's death in them. There is violence in them. There is a lot in them that is traditionally male areas. And Harris throws her women in there and goes, you're going to sink or swim. And they all swim, except for Tara. She kind of needs a lot of forcing. So Harris's female characters are really amazing. In terms of, here are fully formed female characters that are adults that I can identify with, that could be me if I was in the same situation. And that's why I love them. And you see that even with the third and fourth characters, like the really small part characters, all the women are fully formed individuals. And the best part is they're treated as such by the men, for the most part. The other thing is Harris doesn't shy away from relationships of any kind. There are some really positive gay and lesbian and bisexual, which is really important because bisexual characters don't really exist anywhere. They exist in this. They really do. And they're not judged. They're people. They're living their lives and nobody really cares. And you've got Lafayette, who's really flamboyant about it, and you've got other characters later in the series who aren't flamboyant about it. You've got a wide range of people. And that's the whole thing with the female characters as well. You have people. And a lot of series, again, whether it's television or books or anything, don't do this. And Harris does. She does not shy away from any stereotype, but she also makes sure that that's not all that there is. She doesn't talk down to these characters. And that is quite refreshing and really important. And a huge reason why I've started to seriously fall in love with this series. These things exist in this world, in this series that has had #1 best-selling books on the New York Times bestsellers list, that has been popular enough to be turned into a television show. This is a series that is in the consciousness, and most don't do this. And it's one of the things that's been in the media a lot concerning women and portrayals, but it also goes towards Black people and their portrayals in media, and gay and lesbian people and their portrayal in media, and especially bisexuals, because bisexuality has pretty much been completely erased. And Harris throws them in, not as politics, there's no preaching, but as people. And this is incredibly important in today's landscape, because this isn't existing in media. Once you get away from the white characters, once you get into the other characters, this is why I love the series, is because all of a sudden here are people exactly like me, and in great situations where they're problem solvers and they're contributing to society, and in all the ways that my friends and I all do. And I can see my friends and I in these characters, and that's really important and does not happen a lot in media. Moving on, Harris's writing becomes much more relaxed later in the series and lets the story flow rather than trying to force a mystery of the week. And it works. It really does. It works when Sookie's just living her life and these things are happening to her and she has to solve them, she has to deal with them. And there's still a narrative and there's still a conflict and still a climax, but it's much more relaxed and it's much easier to just lose yourself in these characters and lose yourself in the story. There's also the expansion of the world. I cannot say enough for when you move into more of the world. You know, things that you think are cool in fantasy and in superhero stuff and you're looking at it now and you're like, okay, maybe this wouldn't be so fun, or this wouldn't be so cool. I'm not going to call Harris's series gritty, because it's not. Her fantasy is very grounded in reality, and it makes it work. And for all of those fantasy lovers out there who's like, I would love for vampires to exist, or werewolves, or this or that, Harris is going, here's the other side of it. And I think that it really works. Yes, it can get whiny. I actually rather enjoy her world. Her world's pretty fun. Another huge thing is that no character is safe. This is incredibly important. Basically, a lot of authors get attached to their characters, or if you're George R.R. Martin, you take a sadistic glee in killing off every single one of them that's beloved. You're never completely sure who's going to die, who's going to live, who's going to be injured, who's going to have something happen to them that's going to completely change their character. And by character, I mean personality. And this is incredibly important because Harris keeps those changes. They don't revert. If a character becomes intolerable because of things that have happened to them, they don't tolerate changes in their world anymore, it's real and it stays. It's in book after book after book, the same way it would be in real life. And a lot of these books are very close together, so it makes sense that the same issues would crop up in multiple books. And they don't seem overwhelmed. They don't seem like, oh my god, will they just shut up? And if you remember in my Worst Books 2012 review, I talked about Anita Blake and how she won't shut up about her guilt. She never changes. And this is a huge storytelling thing. When you commit your characters to a change, you have to commit them. And most writers miss that completely. They go, oh, but I like them better this way, and they revert them, and they don't offer explanation, and it's crap. Characters need to learn and grow and change the same way people do. Otherwise, they get boring. And this series, say what you will, does not get boring. Even Sookie gets put into peril. Now, obviously, it's called the Sookie Stackhouse series, so she can't necessarily die, but she's certainly put into peril. Just like in Vampire Diaries, there's this will she, won't she become a vampire thing as well. So there is even a chance of death for her. There's a chance of her being turned into a vampire. There's a chance that something irreversible is going to happen to her. And she does change when things do happen to her, when really terrible things happen, or when really good things happen to her, when anything in her life changes, she does change. I love that. I really do. It makes the payoff earn in a way that a lot of series don't. However, it also took 6 books for this to start happening. Well, 5. So that kind of becomes an issue. Like, you can't go 4 books with the same character without any change whatsoever and just the same basic situation over and over again. It's crap. Overall, don't expect the greatest writing. I know that I definitely love and have harped on why I love certain aspects of the series, but the writing's uneven, and it takes 4 books for anything to start really happening, and to commit yourself to that, especially, I read really fast, but most people don't, to commit yourself to hundreds of pages before you get a real payoff for the characters is just too long. As much as I talked about how great her female characters are, and they are, and how unstereotypical all the characters are, as much as I love that, and as much as this series is incredibly groundbreaking, the question of the series ends up still being, who is Sookie going to end up with? And that's terrible in this day and age, that it ends up becoming, who's going to marry Sookie because she's a girl. It's not why I read my books at all. In this day and age, that shouldn't be the question. The question should be, is she going to live? Not, who will she end up with? There is quite a lot that just doesn't exist in media anywhere. Overall, books 1 through 11, I give a 4 out of 5, leaning towards a 3, maybe a 3.5 out of 5. It's definitely a little better than okay, but it's not great. But I will recommend it. If I find a series that does this better, I'll let you know. But until then, there's some great stuff in there, and I definitely recommend you check it out.